All right. Well, it is Sunday, and we've got plenty here to talk about today. So we're gonna go ahead and get into this thing here in just a moment. Working on getting a few more things set up here. Um, Getting the chat opened up. Get everybody in here. Get this thing shared around. But an incredible week one, honestly. I mean, we walk away from yesterday, even though I feel pretty damn stupid for a lot of things I said throughout the offseason and even yesterday. Um, it's not about it's not about how wrong you are. It's about how you react to being wrong. And we're gonna sort some things out. It is Overreaction Sunday, and that's the best title for a week one show. We're gonna overreact to everything, or at least that's the way that the college football world has done to this point. A lot of overreaction, a lot of certainties have been placed upon teams and players that probably aren't true. Um, and we're going to come back and we're going to talk about all of it, including everything that everybody is currently saying and what we really believe about it. So, um, there's a lot to get to today, and we're going to take our time getting through it. We had some interesting results yesterday. Obviously, a big time upset in a lot of ways with the Florida State Alabama game. We have what was some are going to call it a defensive slugfest, and some are going to call it what it was, which was um, lackluster offense in Columbus yesterday. We had what I thought was great defensive play in the LSU Clemson game last night. That game delivered on a lot of levels. I think, at least it did for me. We got to see the Bryce Underwood era begin. We got to see the John Mateer era at Oklahoma begin. That those two teams will face off next week. We'll kind of talk about them and what we look forward to there, and really anything in between. There are so many things to talk about. Well, what I got to start with, Kent State finally ended the losing streak. They beat Merrimack yesterday, 21-17, to take their first win in over a year.
Yes, and guess what, Tyler? It was a kickoff return touchdown that put them ahead, and that would ultimately ended up proving to be the winning point. So, congrats to the Zips, man.
Uh, Wrong.
I know.
Golden
Congrats to the
Flashes.
Golden Flashes. Yes,
Wow.
it was funny.
Wow.
It was funny. I had to get a shot in.
Akron's been better than Kent State recently, so that's kind of a
I
dig at
know.
Akron,
I
man.
was about I was about to say, well, Kent State could go to a bowl game even if Akron finishes with 6 wins. They can't. So.
That is true. They are. Well, that's a different story. That's a longer story for a later time.
A
But
long story.
we walk out of this week with again a lot of storylines, a lot of things that people are saying, and you know, I kind of want to kick it off with something we saw a little bit. Well, what was it? A 3:30 kickoff game? I can't remember what time this game exactly kicked. Uh, Shame on me, I know. Oh, it was 7. Well, nonetheless, Kansas State last night,
Hmm.
not good. 38-35 win over North Dakota, and it took them a touchdown with less than a minute to go
Yeah.
to ultimately go and take the win. It was 42 seconds. Joe Jackson with a 6-yard receiving touchdown. Kansas State, I don't know that I'm going to say they're not good because I don't buy that, but they certainly are having they certainly had their issues yesterday. I don't know. North Dakota is good. Don't misunderstand me. That's been pretty well documented that North Dakota State, um, South Dakota, even in South Dakota State, like those four
Yeah.
have tended to be a bit of a pain in the ass to Power Four schools or really any FBS school they play. But the biggest thing to me that really stands out is there were not any. It wasn't like Kansas State turned the ball over, which makes this almost worse to me. Like they didn't struggle, they didn't turn it over, they just weren't good. They didn't play well, and it's not like they had a
Yeah.
lot to hide because they just played. They opened the season with a conference game that they lost to Iowa State. Like they don't really have a choice now in how they play. And yesterday just was not good. Avery Johnson threw for 318 yards, 3 touchdowns. he was 28 of 43. This team ran for 146 yards. Nobody looked overly great, but they ran for 5.4 yards per carry. They, again, took care of the ball. Looked like they were pretty solid on defense. Created a turnover themselves, but they give up 250 passing yards. Jerry Kaminsky looked pretty good, 23 of 38, 231, and a touchdown. He had two touchdowns from Sawyer Sadel, the running back, 8 carries, 62 yards, and 2 touchdowns. They averaged 3.1 yards per carry, but they had a handful of they had a player that had 9 carries for -1 yards. They're two guys that they got the majority, or I shouldn't say the majority, but they had Corey Ty and Sadel. They had 7.8 yards per carry and 13 yards per carry, respectively. And then Kaminsky had 10 carries for 4 yards. Of course, a handful of sacks involved in that. Like, it just, to me, felt like North Dakota outplayed Kansas State up to the end of that game.
Mm-hmm. They were they showed the final touchdown on the fantastic finishes or whatever on the ESPN college football recap show. I don't necessarily buy that it's a fantastic finish if you're in a position where you're about to lose to North Dakota, but it's definitely one of those that um, Kansas State showed they had some things that could be exploited last week. North Dakota, you got to give them credit where credit's due to take advantage of that, and they gave them everything they could handle, and then some. It was one of those that came down to, like you said, just under a minute to go before we would have had not just one huge FCS upset over an FBS here this weekend, but we would have had an even bigger one than the one we got.
Yeah, and we saw a handful of closer games like that. We saw UTSA
Mm-hmm.
hung around with Texas A&M for quite a while in that game until A&M
Yeah,
ultimately pulled away. Hell of a
yeah.
debut, by the way. We'll talk about this game a little bit. KC Conception, what a debut for him in College Station. Had a punt return touchdown, added on with 3 catches for 72 yards and a touchdown. Should have had 3 touchdowns. Had 2 of them, if I'm not mistaken. Callback. I know one specifically was for illegal touching.
Mm-hmm.
But had potential to have really put kind of the country on notice that, hey, he's going to be a problem for this team, and I think that's still going to be the thing that we're going to walk away from. What we didn't see was a lot of Le'Veon Moss or Ruben Owens. Le'Veon Moss had 3 carries for 19 yards. Ruben Owens had 5 for 37. They only ran the ball 22 times total, with Marcel Reed getting the majority with 8 carries. Not the offense I expected with Colin Klein and this team, even though they did, again, Marcel Reed, 289 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks. Was good through the air. This team on the ground, I expected a little bit more from. Again, Le'Veon Moss and Ruben Owens. I thought we were going to have more touches first off, and then again even more yardage. I felt like they just didn't really. While they ran for 110 yards, it just doesn't really feel like it was that good of a game from my perspective watching it.
Yeah, I didn't get to watch a whole lot, but what I was able to watch kind of while we were around in the boulevard, the tailgate area at SMU was UTSA hanging around, and then ultimately A&M able to pull away and really kind of shut UTSA down in the second half. So
Yeah.
there was a thought for a little bit that UTSA was going to keep this a game and keep this competitive, and they did for a good majority of the first half. But A&M,
Oh, it
finally
wasn't
just
even the majority of the first half. You go into the second half. First play from scrimmage is a 75-yard touchdown run from Robert Henry Jr. I mean, they opened this, like, they played as well as I could have expected UTSA to play. They
was that
as
was that
well as
when
I
they
could.
made it 21-17? I thought it was
Yes.
21-17 at half. Okay,
No. Yeah.
I'd
It was
already
first play of the
we'd
third
gone in
quarter.
the stadium at that point, so
Yeah. It's all good. It's all good. Speaking of, let's go ahead and talk about your little endeavor yesterday. You took a
hey,
trip.
Yeah, we went over this. Is really the first time that we've seen um, East Texas A&M play a game. Basically in our backyard because SMU not too far from for all of us. So we basically had a guys' night out. A couple of buddies of mine from college. We all sat and watched the game together, and ultimately, um, you know, we were we were just hoping not to get shut out. We were hoping not to, you know, lose by 50 plus, and neither one of those things happened. So it was a victory in that respect. But SMU obviously took care of business and ended up winning 42-13. Tyler, this was two pick sixes from our offense allowed this game to um, be more in SMU's favor. But SMU's offense, they didn't do a whole lot in terms of impressing me, and maybe just because of the game plan, so they don't put anything on film for Baylor, which I certainly can understand for next week. But it wasn't even that they weren't running things that Baylor shouldn't expect next week. But Kevin Jennings had a fumble. He threw an interception in the end zone. This could have been a lot worse of a game. And in fact, another fumble late in the game allowed us to get a field goal just before the end that made the final 42-13. This was a game that SMU could have absolutely taken advantage of and poured it on, but they made some uncharacteristic mistakes themselves that I know Rhett Lashley is going to want to have cleaned up in time for next Saturday's kickoff at noon Eastern against Baylor.
Yeah, they didn't. Looking through what I've seen, what I saw from highlights of this game, it didn't look like it was anything um, overly impressive. I think the biggest thing for me
No,
was just the fact that East Texas A&M kept it close, and this is a team that
yeah,
certainly has. They kept it close in terms of what we expected. This was a game that SMU was favored to win by the amount of points they scored in this game, if I'm not mistaken. So,
they were at
um,
49.5. I thought yesterday
oh
morning.
yeah, I
So
hadn't seen anything recent. It was actually 50.5. So
yeah,
even then, like they didn't even reach that number. So
no,
it's I'm gonna choose to be positive for East Texas A&M for you as I know that's where you went
yeah,
but it certainly feels like kind of similar to what I'm going to talk about when we talk about Michigan and what I thought they did last night. Um, just kind of keeping things simple, not really putting a lot
yeah.
on paper, getting ready for next week,
Yeah,
fine
that's
tuning the
exactly
details.
what I thought too when I was in the stadium watching. I said in fact I think there was a drunk SMU guy who was trying to like do his best attempt at trash talking, but not realizing like hey, we are rational and we know that we're not going to win. We appreciate the paycheck. Why don't you just tap the brakes there, buddy? But he uh, he was like, "You're gonna hold the Zell tonight." And I was like, "Hey, we are only down 21-3 at halftime or something like that. You let us on the board. We should only be down really like 14-10 at this point. But because we had a touchdown pass called back, our one of our guys stepped out just shy of the end zone and then ultimately ended up missing a field goal on that drive. You only have two offensive touchdowns, and then I said it should be 14-10 because I thought that the pick six that they called was an incompletion until just this morning before we started the show. Um, so either way, like I knew I said, hey, just think about this. You guys are running basically a high school offense, and you don't have anything to worry about. You're still going to win this game comfortably. So there's no reason to feel feel threatened because you're not in any trouble here tonight.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
I
Um,
was happy that we I think we found our guy. We the offense started moving a lot better when Eric Rodriguez came in. So
yeah, he scored the only touchdown of the game yesterday for the
mhm.
Lions as
Yeah,
he scored
he
a
led
rushing
us down the
touchdown.
field and got us into position to score multiple times. Whether we did or not was a different story. But
Yeah. We saw some struggle wins yesterday. Certainly. We
as
also
week one will always do.
Yep, Kentucky Toledo. That game, Toledo covered actually based on the spread at game time, but um, the spread at the beginning of the week was 7.5, which was a number we had in um,
Yeah, which
one
is
of our
a
picks, and
damn hook.
yeah, we missed it. If you picked Toledo, you missed it when it opened at 7.5. But we had that game. It was a bit of a struggle win there. Northern Illinois struggles 19-17 over Holy Cross. Um, Saw a little bit of struggle from Troy against Nichols. Nichols put up a fight. It was 17-7 at one point before Troy ultimately went on a bit of a run. Goes on to win 38-20. Rice in Louisiana. I picked Louisiana minus 11.5, and Rice wins 14-12. That's what I get for
Rice
going
won.
against my first G5 love of Rice. Getting, no, dude, it was bad. As a matter of fact, my take 10 is 1-8 as of right now, with
Oh
one
my
game to go.
gosh.
This is the worst weekend in betting I've ever had. Plain and simple, worst weekend I've ever had. This is the worst weekend in picks I've ever had. I mean, plain and simple, just terrible. My straight up picks have been god awful. Now, thankfully, on the bright side here, you were with
Seems
me.
like everybody
You were
was.
with me. It just what it feels like to me is that there were this is kind of the way the sport's going, right? The new era of college football, the transfer portal is opening up this thing to be where we may think we know based on
Mhm.
offseason turnaround and turnover and transfer portal ranking and stuff like that, what teams have done and what teams look good. Um,
Mhm.
but we're probably not going to know until week one going forward. I mean, we just won't. It's going to be really hard to have a genuine thought or prediction on things because there's a lot of things that we expected that just did not happen the way that we expected them to.
Yeah.
We watched, you know, Utah UCLA. That's probably the most likely thing I thought was going to happen. I should have just went with my gut on that one and had it in the take 10 because I had Utah covering big and that happened.
That's exactly what they
We had
did. Yeah.
Washington minus 21.5 and they only win by 17. We had um, let's see, what was another one we had here that we ended up dropping the ball on in our picks. I know Memphis was our only cover at minus 27.5. Memphis was our only cover, 45-10 win over Chattanooga. We ended
Mhm.
up taking. What else did we take here? We had. It'll piss me off because I'm trying to. We had a handful of overs. Had the over in the Ohio State Texas game. Obviously, that wasn't even fucking close to hitting, but I expected
Oops.
a lot more there. We'll talk more about that one. I had the over. Um, Let me just go back to Friday real quick and just look at what we had. We had San Jose State covering against Central Michigan. They ended up losing that game. We had FAU covering against Maryland. They got blown out. We had Georgia
Mhm.
Marshall over 53.5. They scored 52. We had
That's awful.
Georgia Tech and Colorado over 51.5. They ended up scoring 47.
47.
We had Ohio State Texas over 46.5. Yeah, we already know. And then we had Arizona Hawaii 52.5. They scored 46. It wasn't far
I mean,
off. It
yeah,
genuinely wasn't
but
far off. It was a matter of who was willing to score that extra point or not. And I got helped by the
mhm.
under last week, and I get hurt by the overs this week. So
Yeah.
it's feeling like we're in a year of an under. And here's what I will say about the early. We'll talk about overreactions early on before we get into some of these recaps. This feels like a year where nobody's really going to step out and pull away until they have a big win. Um, because we didn't see anybody who I think genuinely took an early Heisman lead. Maybe Garrett Nussmeier, and I'm saying maybe, but that's because they won in Clemson last night. That's the only one I can genuinely think of. Tommy Castellanos maybe made an early case, but I mean he threw the ball 14 times. He was 9 of 14. We're gonna call that a Heisman game? I mean I don't know who to look at early in this season after that first week to say that somebody jumped off the page. Garrett Nussmeier was 28 of 38 for 230 and a touchdown. Um, like it just, I don't know. Nothing to me really stood out as a genuine Heisman contender early in week one. And normally we at least see somebody jump out there, somebody kind of come out and make a mark early in the season, a week one victory, the big games. And we have tonight, obviously, we have a couple games today. Lenore Sellers gets a chance to open up his campaign. Should that be on the table and at 3 p.m., I'm going to be saying yes, it is. But then we got Jeremiah Love opening up his campaign, expected to be the Heisman favorite out of Notre Dame. And then you got Carson Beck even tonight, opening up an opportunity. And then tomorrow, we get to see two teams that, I mean, I think I know what I expect out of this. I'm not going to change my tune just because I've been wrong all weekend, but, we got a big game tomorrow night, too, that's going to tell us a little bit more. So,
Yeah. Hashtag Hoover for Heisman, baby.
Well, it might be at this point. I mean, who knows? Like, this weekend just did not go for me the way I predicted it to, the way I expected it to. And that's going to happen. You're going to have weekends where you're just off, but holy shit, man. Like, I normally miss week one a little bit. I normally miss a little bit. But missing this bad is insane. Like, it was crazy to me. I try not to have my pride hurt a little bit, but damn, dude, it was bad. It just felt bad.
Yeah, I was to say at least it's one of those things that you'd rather get it out of your system here, kind of maybe not necessarily, here's the problem because, like you said, this is called Overreaction Sunday for a reason, but at the same time, this is all we're going to have to go on here, for a couple of weeks because there may be some matchups that don't necessarily tell us anything until we get into conference play for some of these teams. So, we can't necessarily say that, we expect to see anything uh, that will prove that Texas can improve offensively. Uh, go before the Florida game. I mean, they've got, I think they've got San Jose State and poor Mary's School of Blind in the next couple of games. I don't actually know who their third opponent is. The only reason I know who their second opponent is because one of the guys that was at the game with us last night was we were talking about Texas before the game and mentioned that San Jose State was their next opponent. So, um, that's the thing is like, Texas offensively, we should expect to see improvement. You're not going to see a defense that was capable of doing what Ohio State did
we're not.
yesterday.
I don't mean to let you get so far in and cut you off, but we're going to talk about this game. We're gonna go a lot more in depth in this. So
I just mean that we all I meant really by that was that you hope to get all of the like kind of the things wrong early and then we can adjust, but don't necessarily want to go too far the other way just because of one blip. Uh, is really all I mean. So we still want to have a little healthy respect for our expectations while keeping in mind what we saw here in week one. But then again, there are certain things that we still need to see if whether it was a one off or if this is something that is a troubling sign. And there are some games that we just won't see that for a few weeks like in the case of Texas.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, we've done enough kind of beating around the bush on this thing. Let's go ahead and talk real quick. I'm going to pull it up on the screen. BJ's going to go away for just a minute.
Fine.
Florida State 31, Alabama 17. I'm going to call it a dominant effort at home yesterday. This was probably the first time I've ever seen Alabama get pushed around at the line of scrimmage in, I would venture to say probably
you were young.
Since before I started watching. I would say probably like the 05-06 season.
Yeah, would the probably Mike DeBose era, I would think.
I mean, that was the worst I've seen this offensive line look. And look, we've seen this. This game really reminded me. Last year, we didn't see this at all from Alabama until, December 31st. Not to point out. And I'm not saying that to be... I'm genuinely not doing that to make jokes. I'm saying this with a serious intent. we saw, excuse me, we saw on December 31st, Michigan go in and lay it out for you. Run at them. You can push them around. They are weak up front. What we then see happen yesterday is not only the Florida State run game and Florida State offensive line push Alabama's defensive front around. And sure, they're missing Tim Keenan, but one player does not one player, Tim Keenan, is not making a bit of difference in that 236 rushing yards we saw yesterday. Florida State dominated the offensive line, dominated the line of scrimmage. And they didn't just do it on offense, they did it on defense too. Alabama could not run the ball. They ran for 3 yards per carry yesterday. On 29 carries, they had 80 some rushing yards. And not only did they do, are we talking all of that, 3 sacks yesterday from the Florida State defense. BJ, you don't see this graphic, or maybe you do. Actually, you're probably watching.
I've got it.
So,
I got it.
Well, then you can see this too. But 3 sacks allowed, 22 QB hurries. 22 QB hurries yesterday from this Florida State defense. That's
absurd.
These stats, by the way, provided by Pro Football Focus. That's where you have to dig to find some of these. And you gotta pay for it. It's a little, it's worth it to me, anyways, to get these stats. 22 QB hurries. When's the last time an Alabama offensive line allowed 22 hurries?
Good question.
Yeah, I don't know. That's the answer. I can't tell you.
I didn't know if you had it and you were just waiting until I tried to make a fool of myself.
No, genuinely do not know. I don't even think Michigan did it. It was relatively embarrassing yesterday what we saw.
Yeah.
If you're asking me, they also had 8 penalties for 70 yards. A lot of inopportune penalties as well. It wasn't just like, oh, they had a penalty here, a penalty there. No, it was the worst time every time they could get one.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people are going to overreact. A lot of people are going to say Ty Simpson isn't good. When are we going to see Keelan Russell? When are we going to see Austin Mack? I don't really know that I'm buying that notion. 23 of 43, 254 yards and 2 touchdowns. When he had time to set and throw, to create the play, he made it. We saw it. We saw multiple drives down the field where he led this team, and I thought did a great job. I thought he had moments where he truly controlled this offense going down the field. And then we had moments where he didn't. We had moments where he looked immature, where he looked like he was a deer in headlights, had a really troublesome time. And leading to this 23 of 43, 254, 2 touchdowns. He did some stuff on the ground. Like, he did open up some opportunities. He wasn't bad. He just wasn't good enough yesterday. And I think a lot of that stems from, again, an offensive line that wasn't great. Receivers dropping passes. Ryan Williams had a terrible day yesterday. It just overall was not, I don't think, a good day. And I certainly don't buy it as indicative of what this team is going to be. I mean, Ryan Williams, 5 catches for 30 yards, but Jeremy Bernard, you see it on the screen, 8 catches, 146 yards, didn't have a touchdown, but he was the consistent playmaker for this team yesterday. There's a lot of question marks, I think, in Tuscaloosa following this one. What they're going to look like, what they're going to do going forward, how the quarterback position is going to be handled, how everything's going to be handled. There's going to be a microscope, I think, over Kalen DeBoer in this program for a little bit. Given what we've seen, the last 2 times we've seen this team, they've been dominated at the line of scrimmage. They've struggled. They've really lost their touch. And while I wouldn't say that the dynasty is over, because, well, I would say it because that's personally what I believe, right? I think that we are at the end, because I don't think this Alabama team, and this was the difference maker between what I said a month ago when we had this conversation on the show versus today. What I saw yesterday was something I didn't imagine seeing a month ago when we talked about this and when I brought this up on the show. The fact that they got absolutely dominated on the offensive line. This is a team that 8-4 might be a ceiling on, if this is what they're going to look like. I mean, they are going. If Auburn does what they just did on Friday night all year round, Auburn's going to beat this Alabama team. Tennessee is going to beat this Alabama team. On top of the 4 I already had them losing. And they're probably going to add another maybe 1 or 2 to that. I mean, this is a genuine team that could drop all the way down to missing a bowl game. And then what's the storyline coming out of Tuscaloosa from that? I mean, I would say Kalen DeBoer's fired.
Yeah, I was to say the storyline would be we made the wrong hire and full on hitting the reset panic button to try to get back to where they were just a couple years ago, and I don't know if that's the right play either. I mean, let's be honest, Tyler. You again, I'm not going to poo-poo on your parade and say that you're wrong in thinking that this what we saw from Alabama is troubling, but I
Why would it be a
genuinely
parade? Why would I be happy about it?
no, I'm
What?
not meaning parade in the happy term. I'm just saying, the expression is poo poo on your parade. Um, I'm not meaning to basically like crap on your opinion or anything like that, because what we saw yesterday was definitely troubling, and I gotta give credit where credit's due to Crisp, who saw this one coming, and I think was part of what prompted the discussion of if they lose to Florida State, is the dynasty over. And I think that there are a lot of people who are going to pronounce it as such, and it's definitely what we saw is not something that we ever saw in the Saban era. I mean, I don't even
Yeah.
remember
Well, that's what I'm
if we
saying.
saw anything like this in '07.
Like
Oh,
nobody.
and by the way, UL Monroe comes to town next week. Oh boy.
Well, I mean, look, UL Monroe,
No,
they are better,
it's
but
not
that's not happening.
2007.
But
Right.
what I'm gonna say is, a lot of people saw Florida State winning. A lot of people said Florida State was going to win, whether they bought into it or not. A lot of them just want Bama to lose. Like
Hmm.
let's call it what it was. A lot of people
Right.
wanted to see Bama lose more than they thought Florida State was going to win,
Yep.
and that's what prompted that conversation. I'm not going to buy into that whole thing. But what I will say is there is not one person that could convince me that they believe that this was going to be the way this game went. That Alabama was going to get
Well,
dominated at line of scrimmage.
no.
That Alabama was going to get pushed around. Alabama was going to give up 236 rushing yards with the defensive line and front seven that they have. Nobody in their mind can tell me that they believe that was going to
No.
happen. And if you do, you're either lying or, well, I need you to help me bet because you got some you can predict. Like
Well,
nobody had that in their mind that they were going to get dominated up front like that.
no. The sad thing is, Tyler, when you were talking about upset picks, the one that when we were talking about these games yesterday, the one that my first thought was Florida State, and I thought better of it and went ahead and went the route of Toledo in Kentucky, and I mean, so I should have, whatever the first thing that popped in my head was, that's what I should have gone with. But that's you win some, you lose some. I didn't really expect that it was going to happen, and certainly not in the manner in which it did. But this is, you know, here's the thing, Tyler, with UL Monroe and then Wisconsin coming to town here in the next couple weeks. There's 2 games, and then they get a week off before the Georgia game. Do we think that there is enough time, even with expect to get Jam Miller back for that Georgia game? Do we
No,
think
because
that there's
one
enough?
thing I agree with that was said yesterday that we had made mention of it. I know where you're going with this, so that's why I'm going to
Okay.
go ahead and answer this question. There is not one thing Jam Miller can do that is going to help what they struggled with up front. Now, he can add a bit of help, and I think it's a veteran presence, right? I think that's something
Mhm.
they missed yesterday, especially to help Ty Simpson. Um, because I heard, we were talking with Colin, a friend of the show, talking with Colin, and he even said, Richard Young's a 5-star. Well, sure he is. Yeah, I know that, but he's not an experienced player, which is
Right.
what
It's
Jam
also
Miller brought to the table, which is what they were missing. They were missing somebody who knew how to get out of the backfield, be that open check down guy, be the guy that gets, can create something out of nothing. They didn't have it yesterday. They missed Justice Haynes yesterday for that reason. because we saw what Justice Haynes did and how helpful he was at times. There was a third down play that Michigan had last night where Justice Haynes breaks 4 or 5 tackles and creates something out of nothing and gets close to the line to gain. They missed that veteran presence at running back that could pick up the blitz, that could get out of the backfield and be a receiving threat and create a bigger play. It just wasn't. They just didn't have it yesterday. That's what I thought they were missing, and I still believe that's part of the problem. But what you cannot tell me is that like there's no way a running back was gonna solve that offensive line problem.
No.
And that's why I'm like I go back and forth because I agree with the take. I agree that Jay Miller could have helped. I still don't think they win this game with him. I just say that they were missing him because they were missing a veteran presence.
My ultimate question was, is there anything that we can see in the next couple of games that gives you, enough confidence to say they could go on the road here in a couple of weeks when they play Georgia and win that game? I don't think so either.
No. I don't know what the spread is, but I'm taking Georgia to cover.
Yeah, I was just saying.
I'm sure it's taken a big. I'm sure it took
Georgia -4 as of right now. And I don't know what it was before yesterday.
That game's in Athens too. Yeah, no. After what I watched Georgia be able to do yesterday, they were pretty good.
Yeah.
It was only 45-7. Sure.
They didn't have to.
They walked out there, did what they needed to do, took care of what they needed to take care of, and they walked out of there heads held high, moved forward. That's part of the issue with taking overs in week 1 because a lot of teams will just do what they got to do and move on. And yeah, I expected, I would have liked one more score. They were in scoring range, but they didn't do it, dickheads.
Yeah.
I mean, even a field goal would have been nice, but damn, Kirby. But no, if that's -4, I'm probably taking that all the way up to 10, at least for now. But I just don't see. I mean, the way they ran the ball yesterday, the way the offensive line was working out yesterday for Georgia, and then Zachariah Branch looked really good. Like they looked the part of a team that could certainly go out and absolutely, I mean, escort Alabama back off of their own field within the first quarter. I mean,
it looks like the spreads for some of the other games have not changed because you look at the rest of the year. Bama still -24 over Vandy. Bama -11.5 against Tennessee. Bama -6 against LSU. Bama -12.5.
I just don't think they've got there yet.
And Bama -5.5 against Auburn on the road.
Yeah, I like Auburn already. I mean, seriously, this is a problem that is I don't know that they're going to be able to fix by week 2. I don't know that they're going to be able to fix it at all week to week. I mean, if they do, I would be genuinely impressed. It'd be a great job by Kalen DeBoer. But I don't know if they can actually fix what happened yesterday. That is there is a serious issue, whether it's the strength and conditioning department or whether it's coaching. I don't know, but I've never seen. That's what baffles me is I've never seen Alabama be dominated on the line of scrimmage like that. And we talk a lot about Alabama here. Let's give the right credit here. Mike Norvell made the necessary changes. He goes out and takes Gus Malzahn from UCF. And, well, UCF was going to fire him anyways, but they still takes Gus Malzahn, puts him as the offensive coordinator, and this offense looked like the Gus Malzahn offense. I mean, this I know they're a different size, but this looked like Auburn, Nick Marshall era.
Yeah.
That's what this looked like. It was fantastic. It was fun to watch. They were good. Mekhi Danzy was a great breakout player in this game that really kind of put the country on notice. Hey, look, I'm gonna be this team's Swiss Army knife. I'm gonna do whatever they ask me to do, and I'm gonna do a damn good job of it. He was awesome. He really surprised me. This defense, though, Tony White, awesome job. It was an effort. This is not a talent thing. This is an effort thing that we saw yesterday. Because I don't truly believe that Florida State has a top. I don't even think they have a top 20 defense in college football. That not based on numbers and production or anything like that, and based on what we saw last year to this year, they made some changes, but really a good portion the same. It's
It's more
just
of a buy-in.
it was buy-in, it was heart, and we watched
Mhm.
accountability from the beginning, and that was the thing. We watched guys make plays and be or not make plays and be taken out of the game. We watch guys fuck up and be taken out of the game for the rest of a possession, and then come back in and hair on fire the rest of the way through.
Yeah. Do
Accountability,
you
incredible.
do you how much of a difference a year makes, Tyler, for this Florida State team? We saw them last year in the Dublin game. That seemed to start a cataclysmic shift. Obviously, we know they went 2-10. Yesterday, before they even got to the start of the fourth quarter, they had already scored more points against an FBS opponent in less than 3 quarters in the Bama game than they did against any FBS opponent last year. This was a improved unit. This was a team that was more playing together instead of just, you know, focused on the individual like it felt like at times last year's unit was. It seemed like there was more talent last year, but there was no buy-in, there was no heart, there was no, passion. There was no playing for the Seminoles. There was no playing for FSU.
Yeah.
This is a completely different unit. This is a completely different team, and you've got to give credit where credit's due because, you know, uh, Tommy Castellanos, no stranger to being hanging around with some of these ranked teams. He nearly led BC to a upset of FSU in 2023 in their undefeated regular season. So,
And walked in
you
and
know,
whooped their ass last year.
yeah, and
I
and
mean,
you know
flat
what?
out. So,
Yeah, you know what? Also, um, this was a back up your trash talk kind of game as well. This was not, I wouldn't say a cocky team. This was a confident team, and they did exactly what they said they were going to do. Nobody wanted to listen to them before the game, Tyler. Well, we better start paying attention to what they're saying now because they went out there, they proved it, and this is a team that is very, resembling of the 2023 squad. So the ACC race that we thought was going to be, maybe a two-horse race, maybe three or four, depending on what we get from Louisville, SMU. Florida State's certainly not out of the picture, and this ACC race is going to be very interesting to see all the way through the rest of the year what ends up happening.
all right, let's play a little game on this overreaction Sunday.
All right.
All right, these are things that I've seen over the course of my perusing of social media the last couple of days or well, the last
Okay.
24 hours really. Um, so let's talk about this. I'm gonna ask you, overreaction or not? Alabama will miss a bowl game in 2025.
All right. Well, let me look at their schedule real quick because it feels like an overreaction, but
Look at the schedule.
there's Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
There is, I mean, Wisconsin. I don't necessarily buy that they'll lose that game. I don't think they lose to Vandy again. I don't really know on Missouri.
Based
I,
on Missouri up front, they are like Missouri will get their revenge on that one, especially in Columbia.
Tennessee had some things that make you worry, but I think that Tennessee could win that game. South Carolina wins that game. LSU could win that game. Oklahoma, maybe. Auburn. Oh, you could see, Tyler, right now. I could see a world where there's a 5-6 or a 6-5 Alabama team going into that Auburn game, and either they have to win or whether they win or lose, it's right on the cusp of bowl eligibility. I think it's an overreaction. I want to tap the brakes on it, but my goodness, it
You can
it
certainly
is
see
definitely,
why that's
you can see why people think that.
yeah, yeah. And like I looked at it and I was like, man, this is fucking stupid. And then I went and you go and look at the schedule and you take a look at who they play, and
And you're
we
like,
haven't seen one of these teams yet, which is South Carolina.
right.
We will see them later today.
Hmm.
Get a feel for what they are. But I'm with you. I think they'll beat UNLV in a row. I think they'll just be. I think talent will be able to carry there. I think they'll beat
Yeah.
Wisconsin for the same reason, but be careful because the front seven of Wisconsin can do some damage themselves. I don't know about the Wisconsin offense, but the defense I trust to stick around.
Yeah.
Georgia, I don't think they'll be able to do. They may want to beat Vanderbilt, but that's going to be a close game again, based off of what we just saw yesterday. And
Yeah.
Vandy doesn't really change much at all. So I mean, I'm not saying they're not going to win that game. I'm not predicting wins or losses. I'm just saying there's a path for them to lose pretty much every game that they play in conference play, based on what we saw yesterday. Like if this is a constant problem throughout the year, it's reasonable. It is a reasonable
Yeah.
thought. I agree with you. I think it is an overreaction because part of me is just sitting here saying, do we really see Alabama not making the bowl, like making a bowl game, or even making a run to be 8-4, like I projected them or predicted them to be earlier a
Right.
few weeks ago? I think part of that's that case. But if we were looking at this and we were looking like we did at Florida State last year, after a few games, and especially that Boston College game when they got ran off their own field, um,
We weren't talking 2-10 after they started 0-2, but we certainly
no,
weren't
but we certainly
necessarily
saw the
thinking 12.
signs. We saw the signs and we
Mhm.
saw where they were really struggling, and
Yeah.
and thus we landed at 2-10. I don't think Alabama's going 2-10. I think this is going to be a
No.
team that probably, I think they do make a bowl game. I
Yeah.
wholeheartedly buy that, but they just don't. Something just doesn't feel right there.
Yeah.
We'll flip to the other side of the coin because I've seen this too. Florida State is an ACC championship contender with their win yesterday.
I don't think that's an overreaction. Like I said, I think they're squarely in the conversation and, will not be an easy out. I don't necessarily buy that the road to Charlotte runs through Tallahassee, but I think that they will have just as much say as a Miami or a Clemson or SMU Louisville will at this point.
I'm pumping the brakes on this one. Look, there's a lot of really good teams in the ACC, and I haven't quite taken a look at since we did their preview of their schedule. But they're going to be 3-0 when they play Virginia later in September. They'll play
Yeah.
Virginia
What
on a
what
Friday night.
you don't think the mighty East Texas A&M is going to catch them in a letdown spot next week?
No, I don't. But they play Miami. Like they'll play Miami. They'll play Pitt. Those are back-to-back games, both at home in Tallahassee. I think that'll kind of give us an early tell where they're at. They get Clemson on the road on November 8th. Um, they have 3 games that I think are gonna kind of determine their placement within the ACC. Certainly, the conference schedule is not as tough as you would think. They get Stanford and Wake Forest, and both of those teams have not impressed.
No.
Virginia Tech, again, we'll see them today. We'll get an idea for what they can be. NC State was okay, but didn't look good. Virginia did what they needed to do against Coastal. Was fine, and then they play Florida at the end of the year. Like I, I buy it, I guess, because of their schedule, but they do play Miami and Clemson. And then again, I'm really high on Pitt, so I think that's going to be a tough game. I see a world where they make their way there, but I'm just pumping the brakes. I need to see a
Yeah.
sustained level of
Right.
effort, and not just a hey, we wanted to get back at Bama because we got screwed in favor of them a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Um, that's where I stand on that right now.
You really think that that was the only? I, I
I think it
again,
was a
I
big source of motivation for Mike Norvell.
okay.
I truly do. I mean, and I think it was for a lot of the program. I mean, let's not sit here and act like everybody on this team. And forgive me because I got something in my eye. Let's not act like everyone on this team was there and went through it, but a portion of them did, and Mike Norvell certainly did. Certainly had the intent there that yeah, we did get screwed, and yeah, we want to beat them. We want to prove, hey, look, yeah, it doesn't matter because it was 2 years ago now, but yeah, we're not thrilled about that. And then not only that, I think Gus Malzahn had something he wanted to prove in that
Hmm.
one. I remember I mean, he was a coach at Auburn. He does not.
Yeah.
He wants
He's
to
no
beat
stranger to beating
Alabama.
Alabama.
He wants to beat Alabama just as much as anybody else does on that team. And so yeah, I think there was a lot of I think there was a lot of motivation. I think that we saw a good amount from some of them guys. Deuce Robinson was recruited by Alabama in his high school time before he ultimately committed to USC, if I'm not mistaken, and transferred to FSU. Squirrel White played in Third Saturday in October for 3 years, 4
Yeah.
years.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, there's a good portion of this roster who has a reason to want to win a game against Alabama. And while I don't believe it was every reason, a lot of this team, I think, certainly had a want. I think this university had a want to get back for what happened. I think that's why the field storming was such a big deal. I think that is what made this game truly what it was. On top of the fact that you had just a really great game plan, and again dominated up front. I mean, there's a lot of points of emphasis for this game. But I think if you walked into this and said Florida State runs for 230 yards, I would have picked Florida State to win too. If I had one stat to look at, that would have been the one. I'd been like, oh damn, okay, yeah, we'll take Florida State.
That's like the paper pop.
Yeah, well, we don't do that here because
Okay, sorry.
we don't follow.
I didn't actually.
We lead, we don't follow. But
right.
No, anyways, so let's go ahead and talk about some other big games here. 1 versus 3, Texas, Ohio State. Don't have a scoreboard for it.
Don't need one.
No, we really don't, because we can kind of tell you. We can walk through this entire game, really.
Yeah.
As to what happened. And, this game was, really, the conversation in this game was Arch Manning, Julian saying, first start, nothing's going to change. I think that's how a lot of people felt. Arch Manning was going to jump into this offense and be good. Certainly going on the road, first road trip, might be a tougher game. Might be a game where they struggle a little bit. Might be a slow starting game. Yeah. I didn't think it would be a slow game. And it was just flat out not a good game at all on a lot of parts. Arch Manning struggled. 17 to 30 for 170 yards. A touchdown and a pick in this game. The interception was terrible. But he had multiple should have been interceptions. And sure, they weren't, but I mean, he had a lot of really bad throws. And honestly, I don't want to blame him fully because I don't think it was 100% him. But there was never really like a feel out period where they tried to get him comfortable, where they tried to get him some easy throws to get him into the game, quiet the crowd, kind of take away some of the energy and some of the tension maybe that he was feeling going into that game.
Yeah, it wasn't until the second half.
We never saw Sark. Like it wasn't a Sark game plan. At least not one that I've ever seen. We normally see him, especially with a young quarterback, go in, ease him into the game, and then give him the reins in the second half. They never gave Arch the reins. Not one time did they give him a chance until they were down and it was dire situation. But not only that, they had one good drive. I can't remember. Was it third quarter? Maybe mid-third. They march down the field and get stuffed at the 1.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't even do the tush push correctly and score on it.
That's not their identity. They should not be trying to.
They have one of the best offensive lines in college football. They should be able to get the push and get into the end zone on that play. Plain and simple. Yes. The fact that they didn't was a bit of a problem to me. But beyond that, they just didn't look good. They weren't. They were never in sync. It felt like the receivers never really got comfortable. Nobody really did what we expected them to do. And yet this is a team that still ran for 166 yards. Quintravion Wisner had 80 yards rushing, 5 yards per carry. C.J. Baxter had 4 per carry. Arch Manning even had 10 carries for 38 yards. And that's with sack yardage included. Like, they moved the ball on the ground. You can't tell me that that's not their identity. They walked in there wanting to run the ball.
Yeah.
They walked into the first 3 possessions. They had an emphasis. They ran the ball 2 out of 3 plays for the first 3 possessions of the game. And then they eventually fall behind. They get down 7-0. And it feels like they just kind of
abandoned that.
Kind of walked away from it. They didn't get any of their stars involved. You would have thought you would have seen more of, especially Ryan Wingo, one of the fastest players in the sport, especially one of the fastest on this roster. Didn't get him involved. Parker Livingstone was a guy that we heard week long was going to be a guy that steps up in this room and didn't. I mean, we saw him a little bit. We had the touchdown reception, but beyond that, we didn't see much.
Yeah.
And then even Jack Indries, like, I expected him to be involved more. He had 4 catches, but I expected a little more to go his way. As a guy who's experienced and is beloved from everybody at Cal, for what he did out there with Fernando Mendoza, you would have thought he would have been a great safety net to have for Arch Manning. And he was missing throws, overthrowing guys, underthrowing guys. We saw him throw behind receivers at times. I mean, it just wasn't a good performance. And I'm not trying to completely throw it on Arch Manning because again, I think that we saw a very different style from Steve Sarkisian and what they were trying to do offensively and how they tried to get him involved in this game and really get him comfortable in this game. It was not what we thought. But let's go ahead and BJ, I'm going to ask you this.
Mhm.
Talking about overreactions. Um, here's a couple of overreactions I've seen
Okay.
early early week one, and one of these is going to be like, oh, of course you're going to ask this question, but I am going to ask because I've seen a lot of people saying this. But number one, Arch Manning Heisman campaign done after week one.
Not an overreaction. I think there's still a case that he will work his way back in, but I think there was a lot of fading of the Heisman campaign, a lot of the potential like casuals that would have like put money around and everything like that were getting out while they still could. And so I don't really know necessarily at this point, like we were talking about earlier, who the favorite would be, but it's going to take multiple better road performances, Tyler. Not just one great road performance. It's going to take multiple really solid, good road performances in Texas victories. Like they need to go into the swamp, and Arch needs to be the reason why they win that game, or they need to go and beat Georgia on the road, and Arch needs to be the reason why for that to be. For him to be in the same spot he was to start the year. So I'm not necessarily thinking that it's dead and gone, but the hype is, and he is still obviously going to be, somebody that could win it. But I think that the campaign that was, talked about and pushed for a long time before the
All
season
summer,
started,
all summer, Arch
yeah, all
Manning
summer
Heisman.
is
And now I
it's
will
over.
say there's things I got right here. Okay, I'm not just gonna shit on myself all day. So bite me if you think you're gonna come in here and just shit. But you know that was one thing I had. Like I thought he would be a top 10 quarterback in college football. We didn't see that
Yeah,
yesterday. What I did not believe was he was going to
you
be
didn't even
a
see him as
Heisman
a top
contender.
5 in the state.
I don't now. No, not currently.
Certainly not. Yeah.
Um, and maybe that's an overreaction, but um, there are at least four quarterbacks in the state that I think are better currently. It's just it was an interesting one last night there, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Um, taking a look at some other stats from this game, just to kind of get to it, and then I'll ask you this other question. We saw um, Ohio State rushing 2.9 yards per carry. I'm not going to blame the offensive line. The offensive line seemed like they played really well. I thought
Yeah.
they were solid,
It was really a good defensive
but
effort from Texas.
we did not see a lot from. We saw C.J. Donaldson. I think he was certainly the better of the two running backs, and C.J.
Hmm.
Donaldson is a good player. But this Ohio State team, when they really lined up and tried to run the ball, they really didn't. Like if their tell was run, they weren't running. Um, 2.9 yards per carry again, 89 rushing yards. They got dominated on the ground in this game. But really, we're being real about this. Ohio State didn't really do a whole lot. Like there wasn't much more that we saw from them that we saw from what we saw from Texas. I mean, do you feel the same way watching this game? Like, I don't feel like either one of these teams were significantly better than the other. I think they had a couple more shot
No.
plays that worked. Obviously, the deep touchdown pass that worked. They had the stuff at the goal line. I mean, this game was 1 yard away, which it doesn't matter if you're 1 yard away or 99 yards away, but they were 1 yard away from this game being in overtime yesterday.
Yeah.
I mean, do you feel the same way I feel? Like I don't really feel like we learned what we thought we learned about either of these teams.
I mean, here's the thing. I think we learned a lot more about Ohio State than we did Texas. I don't think there's anything really to worry about
What
Texas.
do you think we learned about Ohio State?
I think we learned that they are going to keep themselves in games because of their defense. I don't necessarily know that without seeing some improvement offensively, and of course, you're going to see that they're not necessarily going to play a team that has as good of a defense as Texas did for a good majority of the season. We can, go probably down to November before they will. Um, because they don't play Oregon if I'm remembering the
No,
schedule
they
correctly.
play. They got
They got Penn State and Michigan.
they got
That's
a they got a
maybe the only.
scary game later this month. A very scary game, especially based off of what we just saw yesterday. Road trip, September 27th, Seattle, Washington.
Okay.
I look. I'm not saying I'm not pulling it. I'm not yet.
No.
But I'm telling you, and I've talked to some Ohio State fans. That game, they're not comfortable about going over there. They are not
Yeah.
comfortable one
I
bit
mean,
about going
just
over there.
look what
And
happened
and
with
why would they?
Michigan up there last year. So
And the offense looked similar early in the year. Do you think we're going to learn a lot between Grambling and Ohio? I doubt it. I don't really think so. Like that's going to
this
be
is
their
the
next
same team.
chance. And the thing is sure it's not Steve Belichick's Washington defense. It's Ryan Walters' Washington defense, which I would say are comparable in terms
Hmm.
of what they do. Again, I'm not saying upset, but I'm saying that there is certainly a game early in this year that they can get caught very quickly in
Yeah.
this one because this Washington
Yeah.
offense, the more they get to work together, they're going to be good. I'm very high on Damon Williams and what this Washington team can be. I mean, this is a game that might boost Washington into a playoff conversation early if they win.
Yeah.
I mean, genuine
But
playoff talks early with a win in that one.
but if they can get through that game,
If they get through that game,
you know
they
they're
probably
likely
they play Illinois
are
on the
8-0.
road.
Yeah.
Well, they play Illinois on the road 2 weeks after that. That's another game where defense is going to matter.
Hmm.
What's going to happen? How are they going to look? Sure, they may win
Right.
because of their defense. Then they'll play 2 weeks after that. They'll get Penn State. Then they'll
Yeah.
cruise. They'll cruise with Purdue and UCLA. Purdue's going to be the tougher of those two, based on what I
Based on
saw.
what we saw yesterday. Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
and then you have Rutgers even, and then you play Michigan to end the year.
Yeah.
Which leads me to overreaction or not, Michigan will take their fifth straight this year.
I don't think it's an overreaction. I think there was a thought even
And now
before the
I'm not asking
season
that.
that
By the way, before anybody, I'm not asking that for myself. I'm asking that because I have seen everywhere, and I'm not one that's saying this yet because I think that there is a lot of time between now and November 30th, November 29th,
yeah,
before
yeah,
we can really say what's going to happen in that game. All I'm saying is I've seen a lot of people, especially within the circle of these two games, saying that Michigan is going to take five straight in Ann Arbor this year, based off of what we saw yesterday. And I don't know that I buy that, but I certainly think it plays into that notion a little bit.
yeah.
Like if we're
Well, I
playing the
mean,
game based off of yesterday, yes. Sorry, I don't mean to keep interrupting you, but I'm trying to set the tone, trying to make it very clear. This is not about me. This is not what I think. This is what other people think. I already predicted Michigan to win before I saw this fucking game. So
right.
you can
Well, I was to say the last couple of years, it went even with Michigan winning two in a row in Ohio. It's one of those that Michigan Stadium has been a tough place to win, especially for Ohio State since the Harbaugh era really got zhuzhed up in 2021. I think that this is a team in Ohio State that if they were playing Michigan, yeah, at home, they could probably end the losing streak this year. They you know should have last year if we're being honest, but that's another game for another year. There is a school of thought that this was something before the year that could have easily gotten them gotten to be five straight if Bryce Underwood you know played as well as we thought he would and looked as good as he did. And so it's not an overreaction to think that, but there's
right.
still a long way and a lot of things can change from now to then.
Yeah, there is, and that's why I'm saying I'm not buying that notion yet. But I certainly I saw it and I was like And you ask an outsider because I know what I felt like yesterday watching the game.
Hmm.
I know what I felt, but it's a little different thing. Um,
Right.
anyways, moving on. Another game from yesterday. Believe it or not, we had other games played. Uh, another top 10 matchup yesterday down there in Clemson. Uh, Garrett Nussmeier and his new number and the new look LSU Tigers defense. And when I say new
Hmm.
look, I mean they made some changes. Blake Baker got more aggressive, and they're utilizing athleticism to their advantage, and they did a great job of that yesterday. They were
Yeah.
dominant up front. They made Cade Klubnik uncomfortable, and I mean we saw glimpses of 2023 Cade Klubnik last night. We also saw moments
Hmm.
of 2024 Cade Klubnik. So like let's not get too far out here. I mean we saw a little bit of both. We saw an interception, but I mean he wasn't terrible. I'll tell you what was bad though, and this is what I truly believe was the reason they lost this game. Inability to run the football. 1.7 yards per carry on 19 carries, 32 yards. I mean it was abysmal. That watching them try to run the ball yesterday, they could not do it. And one thing that we did see, not that it was much better because they were not all that great. Well, we saw LSU run for 110 yards on 3.8 yards per carry, a little bit of help. Thanks to Xavier Thomas was 3 for 26 yards. But neither of these teams really looked all that much better in the run game. Clemson certainly looked bad, but um, LSU didn't really look all that much better. That was pretty similar to what they were doing last year against defenses of similar caliber. Uh, Garrett Nussmeier made plays. Aaron Anderson made a lot of plays. That was a guy they really got involved from the beginning. 6 catches for 99 yards and no touchdowns, but was certainly a guy who created a lot of opportunities. You look at this game, and I think again the one thing I can say about it is, well, there's two things I can say. One is I'm very surprised that we didn't see any Gideon Davidson yesterday. I don't know if they thought he just wasn't ready, or if there was an intent for a red shirt. But I'm very surprised we didn't see him yesterday. The other thing I will say is that while I don't believe we got a true like Heisman frontrunner yesterday at all at any point, Garrett Nussmeier might have made the best case. I don't know that. Again, I'm not saying he is. I don't think he is. I don't think there is a frontrunner right now. We're 1 week in. We're 1 day in, and or well, sorry, we're a little more than 1 day in. We're about 5 days in now, based on last Saturday and then the last 3 days. But barring huge performance today from somebody or a performance tomorrow for the ages, I don't think we will have a Heisman frontrunner coming out of the week. But I think that Garrett Nussmeier has the best case if we're talking about week one.
Yeah.
I
I
know you
mean,
were out for this
here's
game yesterday. I don't know how much you actually
yeah.
got to catch of
I
this.
saw some highlights earlier. The thing that really I think impressed me, I think LSU's defense was the biggest question mark that we needed to have answers with this game. And you know, like you said, there were times where Klubnik looked as good as his 23 version, and there were times where he looked, um,
As
you
good
know,
as
like it.
I don't know if good would be the answer for
Well,
23.
I'm meaning,
Look like 23 maybe.
looked as good as the 23 because he was getting pressure and LSU was making his life miserable. But there were also times where he did look sharp and efficient, especially in the first half,
Yeah.
and getting them downfield to put them ahead 10-3, where he looked as good as he did last year. So the biggest thing really was that LSU finally seems like they have figured out defensively, you know, the biggest problem in terms of what has kept them from being in playoff contention here over the last few years, especially since Brian Kelly got hired down there. If this is what we're going to get, if this is the defense that we are going to, should expect to see from LSU going forward, this is, everybody that was talking about them as being, a being on the playoff doorstep this year, and had them in there. This is a team that can absolutely be in the playoff conversation and can go on a run. This is a resounding. I'm not gonna say resounding. I shouldn't try to quantify or qualify this, but this was a you know this was a mic drop, if you will, from Brian Kelly, and everybody that criticized him. He can't win a season opener. He's they're all these big games, and he never comes through. Well, he finally did win one. So I mean, either a broken clock is right twice a day, a blind squirrel occasionally finds a nut, or maybe, just maybe, this LSU team finally defensively has put something together that makes them a contender. I think that their offense, they probably should have won this game by 2 touchdowns. I really still don't know how the play that they uh, that should have put them up 17-10 in the first place, that ultimately was called back, and they turned it over there at the goal line. I don't know how that wasn't a touchdown, but that's neither here nor there. Um, so ultimately, especially from halftime on, this LSU team was playing better. They made Klubnik, you know, have to really, no time to get comfortable or anything like that. Certainly not the case of what we saw in the first half, and so if this is the LSU team that we're going to get week in, week out, especially if they continue to make adjustments like they did in the second half, it's very reminiscent of 23 Michigan, where Michigan would always make those adjustments at the half, no matter how the first half was going, whether they were up big or whatever, and they found another gear and they were playing, lights out in the second half. If LSU can continue to do this, they're not just a playoff contender, they're an SEC title contender. They may even have a chance to be, trying to hoist the trophy again.
Yeah, no, and I buy it. Um, you look at the second half, and the biggest thing I think, it's going to go under talked about. It's going to go kind of unnoticed. AJ Halsey had to miss the first half of the game yesterday due to a fight that he had at the end of last year when he was still with Houston. He had a
Hmm.
fight during a game, was suspended for the first half of this game. From the time that he stepped on the field, this team took a step forward in pass defense, which is what ultimately shut down Clemson's offense. It wasn't the fact that
Hmm.
Clemson couldn't just run the ball. It was the fact that you then watched LSU have their two best corners on the field, being AJ Halsey, Mansour Delane, however you want to say it. Both those guys were fantastic. Delane had an interception, had two pass breakups. Halsey had two pass breakups as well, if I'm reading it correctly. Sorry, he had one. Um, but both guys really, really solid in coverage and helped shut down Bryant Wesco, TJ Moore. Like this isn't a bad receiver room for Clemson, and they proved it early in this game. Like they were solid. Um, but we got two very good corners that jumped in the second half, and I think it opened up a lot of opportunity for the defense to create more pressure opportunities on Cade Klubnik, which we then saw a lot more pressure in the backfield. But Bryant Wesco and TJ Moore both had 55 or 50 plus yards apiece. Wesco was 66, Moore with 55. Um, just again, very quite literally, and going to be an under talked about piece of the puzzle from this game yesterday. I think. Um, with that said, let's go ahead and talk about it. These two teams might meet up again in the college football playoff.
Not an
Overreaction.
overreaction.
I would agree. I think these teams will meet up again. As a matter of fact, that was part of my playoff prediction was that these two teams would meet again in the playoffs in the second round. But this felt like it could have been a championship level matchup. I mean, based
Yeah.
off of what we knew about these two teams, I'm still very high on Clemson. I ranked them number one to go into the season, and sure, you missed, but guess what? Your number one also was as out as well. So,
I would say we've already seen 3 top 10 teams lose, Tyler, yesterday, and we're guaranteed to have another one tonight. So
mhm.
we're we are in an era where there is, not that much separation between the teams that are at the top and maybe even the teams that aren't at the top. So let's, this is why preseason rankings, we could try our best, but we really don't know. And so, should we
But preseason rankings are
then?
great. And look, people will shit on the
Yeah.
preseason rankings, but they are fantastic for something like this. For this show right here, it gives us something
Mhm.
to talk about. It gives us storylines. If we didn't have the preseason
Right.
rankings, we'd just sit here and say, "Oh, Florida State beat Alabama." Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it looked like
But
the
would we?
NFL. It'd be like the Jags beating the Lions. Like it'd be like, okay, whatever. Now that's gonna happen. That doesn't. But like that's what it would be
Could.
like though. That would be the
Right.
equivalent. Or hey, oh well, hey, Browns and Bengals. Bengals take care of business. Defense finally played well. All right, whatever. Move on to next
Yeah.
week. We wouldn't have the emotion. We wouldn't have the storylines. We wouldn't have the field storming that we just watched yesterday. We
Yep.
wouldn't have all these things that make college football great without these preseason rankings. Yeah, they're annoying. Yeah, they don't always articulate everything properly. And certainly we
Very.
overrate teams. We always do. Everybody that's this funny thing that people have, okay? And they have the ability to formulate. And I had a conversation with somebody yesterday in my TikTok comments about this, which I finally started using yesterday.
Good.
I had a conversation in the TikTok comments yesterday about this, and it was like, "What Clemson number one based on what?" And my answer was, "Well, based on my ability to go through, do my own research, and form my own opinion, and not be fed by media, whether it comes from one whatever conference you want to say. Like this is my opinion. They have some of the best returning production. They have a very good front seven that certainly proved themselves last night, and their changes that they made, being Tom Allen being the new defensive coordinator. I mean, that was enough for me. That was what I needed to see for a number one team because who else were we going to take? Teams
Hmm.
replacing coordinators, both coordinators in some cases. Teams replacing starting quarterbacks. Teams with unproven talent all throughout their roster.
Yeah.
Like, what are we supposed to do? So yeah, I take the most proven team, and that was Clemson to me. Sure, they lost. They lost. But guess what? We are in an era of college football where '07 feels like it's every year. I mean,
Hmm.
it genuinely does. And I don't know what it was about yesterday. I don't know. I genuinely don't. But something yesterday just kind of played into that unpredictability of college football. Like, just, it
Yeah.
was one of those things where it was almost sort of humbling in a sense, where it was like, you know what? Just remember, there are days where you can be dead fucking wrong. And
Hmm.
that is what it is. And that's what yesterday was for me. So,
Yeah.
with that said, let's go ahead and move into hopefully not being wrong further. Well, we've got two games here. We've got South Carolina, Virginia Tech today. And we have Miami and Notre Dame. We'll go ahead and start with the non-top 10 matchup, being South Carolina, Virginia Tech. Game going to be in Atlanta today. Really, really excited to see the start of this season for South Carolina's offense. The defense too. There's a lot of change there as well, but the offense, I think they have. I think people are going to be surprised based off of the things that I've heard, the things I've read over the course of the non-playing season. I almost messed up. Over the course of the non-playing season, over the course of media days, over the course of this week, previewing the week and previewing the season, people will talk about South Carolina and say, "Man, I just don't know what receiving room they have." Um, I was pretty similar to last year's, as a matter of fact.
Hmm.
Yeah, sure they lose Gage Larvidan, who's now with the Browns. They lose a couple players here and there. They have pretty much the same baseline receiver room as they had last year. Mazio Bennett is back. Um, they bring back Nick Harbour, who really figured it out last year. Started running really good routes. Started being a better pass catcher. Just a more really utilizing the natural talent that he had. But then he's got an off season, a full off season now of actually training for football. No more track and field. It was full focus on football. How much better can that make him? How much better can this receiver room get, really, throughout the course of it? Russell Faison was announced that he will be eligible and will play this weekend today for South Carolina. That was announced earlier this week. That's a big deal at
Hmm.
running back. You'll get
Yeah.
Faison and Attaway as your two running backs over there. You'll have Michael Smith and Jordan Dingle as your two tight ends. I think they're going to be pretty solid. Jared Brown's back, Van Jacobs is back, Luke Doty's back. I mean, this is still a really good receiver room, and people are discounting it heavily for some reason. I don't particularly know, but that's the vibe I'm getting. You look at the defense, and yeah, there's a lot they're worried about, but I think the one thing that we'll talk about is this secondary still being good. They lose Nick Emmanwori. Certainly, you have concerns about losing Nick Emmanwori. Who wouldn't? Seriously, who in their right mind would not be worried about that loss? But they bring back Judge Collier. They bring back Jalen Kilgore. They bring back DQ Smith as well. Um, on top of that, you look at they look at Vakari Swain. They're very high on him. He was a part of this roster last year. He's back and gonna play a considerable amount. They love Justin Okoronkwo. That's the guy you need to watch at the linebacker position. They are stoked to have him as a part of this team. Big reason Bangali Kamara left and went to Kansas was because of Okoronkwo and what he's able to do. And then you're going to be, we already know Dylan Stewart, but I think we're going to learn the name Brian Thomas today. And no, I'm not talking about the NFL Brian Thomas. I'm talking about South Carolina's
Right.
Brian Thomas. We're going to learn that name today as well. They also like Desmond Umeozulu as well. They're very, very stoked about what he's got potential to be. Like, the reason I'm doing this and the reason I'm saying these things is because again, I heard a lot of people doubting what the South Carolina team could be. I'm just saying, like, there's a lot of people on this roster. There's a lot of guys on this roster that people are acting like they've never heard of before. We're gonna learn some names. Now the offensive line is a question. They got a lot they're replacing. It'll be interesting. The center of the defensive line is going to be a little bit questionable early, but as time goes on, especially today, I think there's going to be a considerable amount of play, especially in the backfield, getting to Kyron Drones. But we go ahead and talk about that. Virginia Tech's not terrible. Like, they have a pretty solid team themselves. They're excited about Terrion Stewart coming in. They're excited about Donovan Green coming over from Wake Forest. They're excited for the defense. They think they're going to be a little better this year. But it's one of those that we're just going to have to see. They like Caleb Woodson, though. And they really like this guy, defensive end, came over from Eastern Michigan, I believe. James Jonkum. They're pretty high on him as well. Excited to see what he brings to the table for them. So that's what we're looking at there in this game overall. This game, again, in Atlanta, no weather, not a factor. Maybe, depending on the temp they set it at, I think the weather's fine. So that leads to our predictions. And I'll go ahead and lead it off. I'm taking South Carolina to win this game. I got 38-21 Gamecocks in this one.
I'll also join you with the Gamecock pick. I think this is going to be a 35-17 game.
All right. Moving over, Miami and Notre Dame. Obviously, this is a big deal. This is two teams that think they can control the line of scrimmage in this one, and we're gonna see probably a bit of a pissing contest to see who can do it better. I mean, and I don't know a better way to put it, but I think that's kind of the vibe we're getting, at least early on, looking at these two teams, what their strengths and weaknesses are. I think it's going to be a matter of, hey, we're going to control the line of scrimmage. No, we are. And we're going to get like the 5-year-old argument. No, I am. No, I am. No, you are. No, me. No, you. Kind of, one of those things. And
Right.
we'll see how it goes. I'm excited, though. Jeremiah Love, I think, is going to be really good. Probably the difference maker in this game, what he's able to do. Certainly helps that case for Notre Dame. But the thing for me that just really holds me back, when I look at both of these teams, I think they're going to be able to do things very similarly. But the one thing that just holds me back is inexperience at quarterback position. And I think C.J. Carr is going to walk in very similar to what we saw yesterday with brand new starters as well. And that is that he's going to walk into what's going to be a hostile environment. That's a top 10 matchup, and I'm telling you, people in Miami are going to show up to that game. They don't always show up, but they are going to be at this one. And I think that it's going to be a hostile environment. I think it's going to be a bit crazy. And I certainly do not believe that we're going to see CJ Carr come out and be just a just an immediate star, an immediate playmaker, an immediate creator for this offense. I think it's going to be a task that takes some time. And thankfully they get this game and then they go into a bye week. But when I look at this game, I think it's going to be one of those where we watch these two teams feel each other out a little bit. They're both going to try to again control that line of scrimmage. But I'm ultimately going to walk away with this thing, picking picking Miami to win this game. Um, Taking Miami to win, and I'm going to go. I'm going to say they'll take care of business here. I'm going to go 24-21. I'll just go pretty simple here.
Tyler, the last time that Notre Dame was here, they were in a tight game against Penn State in the semifinal in the Orange Bowl, and it came down to a late turnover that Drew Aller threw that put Notre Dame in position to kick a walk-off boot and send them to the national championship game. The Irish faithful were very well represented there. They were very well heard in that game. And I expect that they will travel around.
They always travel.
Yeah, I had a little bubble there, so
Okay.
apologies. I expect that they will have traveled well and will be in, very well attending that game and not necessarily, I don't expect this to be a true road environment, if you will. Like if this was in Death Valley, for instance, like Nussmeier had to go into for CJ Carr. I think having Jeremiah Love, I don't believe that Miami is going to sell out basically just to stop the run, because I think that CJ Carr can, make you pay if you do try to do that, and so I think they're going to give a healthy respect, and we'll see, based on the early drives, what they kind of focus on and lean into. But like you said, Jeremiah Love is the X factor. Having him in the backfield and the track record of Mario Cristobal in these kinds of games, it's one of those things that he just does not have a good record. Some people, not me, I wouldn't certainly never dream of doing this, but some people have called Mario Cristobal the James Franklin of the South, which is to be a negative because James Franklin doesn't win the
I
big
don't know. I
games.
don't know who
The
said it. It
track
wasn't
record
me. I know.
is
Like I'm
it,
actually serious. It wasn't me, but I don't know who said.
it, no,
It's funny.
no,
It made me
that's why I
laugh.
said, and some people have said it wasn't you, wasn't me, um, but I have heard that been said about him before.
Gotcha.
Notre Dame will have a scare. This will be a very close game, but Notre Dame will come out on top because they've got Jeremiah Love. They've got a lot of returning production besides the quarterback position. I think Notre Dame squeaks it out 23-20 over the Canes. And yeah, that's right. In 2017, the Notre Dame was up in the top 3, and Miami put a thumping in them at 41-8. But neither one of these teams are their 2017 counterparts.
No, but there's some
I think
similarities.
I agree. I
I
mean,
mean,
I think that
truly,
Carson Beck
if
is
I'm
going to
not
have.
mistaken, and who, hang on, before I say something I don't is not right, which I try not to do, but hang on, Notre Dame.
Also, Cristobal was not coaching Miami in 2017. That was still
So,
the Mark Richt.
well, yeah, I'd certainly think I would trust the current coach there. Um,
I thought it was 41-8 or 43-8 or something like that. I didn't think it was
so if I'm not
43-10.
mistaken in that game, and I'm gonna go ahead and take a look, 43-10 was the final. Yes, I do know that. But I'm trying to
Okay.
think of where I'm looking for where something happened here. So that's this game right here. Oh, damn it, that wasn't it. It's down here, November 11th. So that was. Well, so okay, so what I'm seeing is Brandon Wimbush 10 of 21. a touchdown, 2 picks, and an Ian Book. I mean, it wasn't a young quarterback, but it was certainly.
It was certainly not a good
Brandon
quarterback.
Wimbush didn't go very far, and Ian Book.
No.
I mean, Ian Book was fine, but he obviously didn't go much further himself. Um, certainly, point of question. I guess certainly. I think. But what I'm saying is just a young quarterback in an environment like that against a defense like this. I think that Miami's going to be okay. My biggest question mark is the health again of Carson Beck. Don't want him to be hurt. Don't want anything like that to happen. But
Yes.
certainly coming off of a UCL injury, it's a pain in the ass. Again, I can't say it enough.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like saying it, but I mean I've been through it. I've been there. So knowing that, a little hesitancy, but I'm honestly with Miami Hurrah fan in the chat. Not 42-17. That was his prediction, by the way. Let's go Canes.
Yeah.
But I am with him that it's certainly gonna be a game where I think Miami does get the job done. I think that this is where, just because it hasn't happened doesn't mean it can't happen. And we haven't seen Cristobal win the big game, but I think they'll take a good start to the year, definitely with that one. All right, let's go ahead and finish this thing up here. We got 2 things left to do: our team of the week and then our player of the week or performance of the week. Yeah, I mean that's where I'm comfortable. I think they'll be close, but I'm comfortable with Miami winning that game. Certainly, I've been saying that all off season. All right, so team of the week. I'm gonna go ahead and kick this one off. I'm gonna take Florida State. Genuinely impressed, man. They did what they needed to do to take care of business and dominate again up front. I think that's what really pushed me over the edge. There was just impressed and them kind of pushing it over the edge and getting themselves in the conversation.
Yeah, there's no other answer this week. It's Florida State.
Well, I'm glad you went bold for me there. And then as for
I live to please.
Player and or performance of the week, I need to check something here because I just want to see make sure I'm not missing something. But yeah, no, that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm going with Utah's Devin Dampier. 21 of 25 through the air, 206, 2 touchdowns, no picks, 16 carries for 87 yards and a touchdown as well. Yeah, we could definitely tell this was a new offense over there in Salt Lake City. Man, that thing was they were flying from the beginning. I loved it.
Yeah, I excuse me. I'm gonna go a little bit off the beaten path here, and I know it's not necessarily the best of opponents, but when's the last time you hear a quarterback nearly going perfect for the day? Rocco Beck, 19 of 20, 278 yards, 3 passing touchdowns. Iowa State thoroughly dominates South Dakota to the tune of 55-7. Iowa State proving that last week really wasn't a fluke. They were able to, come back home and really just handle business. No really, sweat to it. And Rocco Beck was basically as flawless as you could get in Saturday's contest.
Yeah, absolutely. I liked it. They struggled a little early in that game too. South Dakota kind of hung around for a minute, and then they really started to figure it out.
Yeah, it was
apparently
it was
the script
until
helmets.
the end of the first quarter.
The script helmets must be the new look this year, and that must be their full time
I
combo.
like that.
I don't know. I go back and forth, man. I miss the old Cyclone, like the actual the bird into
that old logo. Yeah. That was a beauty.
I miss that.
We also got Garrett Nussmeier, that was chimed in as the player of the week from Miami Harry Dole fan.
And team of the week is Florida State. I know that hurt. I know that one hurt. All right. One more thing we do, as we always do here, we go through and talk about everybody. We don't just talk front runners. And I know we've done that for the majority of this show, but here at the end, we're going to go ahead and take about 10 minutes just to talk about some games here. go through all the scores that we've seen so far this weekend. And what this will be is the scores we've seen all weekend, any other time. However, we still got 3 games to be played, so that's why we're only going to get a few. So we go back and take a little flashback to Thursday night. NC State gets a 24-17 win over East Carolina. A good game, I suppose. It was a fun game to watch. East Carolina almost pulled the comeback in the head coaching debut for Blake Harrell. But ultimately come up just a little short. NC State didn't look great. Some question marks there. Elon and Duke. 10-10 game at half. Duke ends up pulling away, winning pretty comfortably, 45-17. Wake Forest with a Wake Forest was something against Kennesaw State. I don't really know what to call it, but it was a 10-9 victory in the debut for Jake Dickert as a head coach. Georgia Tech gets the win over Colorado 27-20, pulling off themselves a win there. Moving on down the line, Florida State and Alabama 31-17 win for Florida State. SMU gets the win 42-13 over East Texas A&M. Pitt 61-9 over Duquesne, getting a hell of a start there. Eli Holstein looked good. Des Reed, I heard, was a monster in that one. Boston College 66-10 win over Fordham. Louisville 51-17 over EKU, being Eastern Kentucky. Virginia 48-7 over Coastal, and Cal 34-15 over Oregon State.
No EKG for EKU on Saturday.
Well, I mean, no. But we got TCU North Carolina. That's the game left to be played in the ACC on Monday. Moving down the line here, we'll talk American real quick. Back to Thursday night. South Florida with a win, 34-7 over Boise State. Dominant. Surprising. Shocker. Should have told us everything we need to know about this weekend, but it didn't. UAB, 52-42 over Alabama State. We'll talk about this one because even though they lost, I'm not talking FCS at the moment. So Tarleton State beats Army 30-27 in double overtime. That was a bit of a surprise itself on Friday. We'll skip that one due to result. Navy with a 52-7 win over VMI yesterday afternoon. Tulane dominates Northwestern. Preston Stone 4 interceptions, but I didn't see it, so it doesn't count. Next week's a new week.
That's the rule? Okay.
That's what I'm going with.
I saw all 4, and they all counted, and that was about half of his career total coming into Saturday. So,
yeah, I'm not amused. By the way, John Summerall, a little salty after that game, and rightfully so. Northwestern denies Tulane's option to wear white after basically the story behind it is the first game after Hurricane Katrina, Tulane wore all white jerseys that first game back. John Summerall, in honor of this year being the 20th year following Hurricane Katrina, asked to wear white as they were putting this. They put the Hurricane Katrina 20th anniversary stickers on all Louisiana team helmets, and they wanted to wear white. Northwestern denied that offer to wear white, and Tulane opened up a can of whoop-ass, 23-3 victory there,
yeah.
and good for him. Jake Retzlaff looked good. The new Tulane walk-on QB who nobody's ever heard of before.
Yeah, I don't
right.
know. This kid, he can run. He's pretty good.
Yeah. Anyways,
he might have a future.
He might. Temple with a 42-10 win over UMass. Expected a little more out of Joe Hirosimiak in that first game, but all in all, I think that says a lot more about where Casey Keeler's got this Temple team right now. That's more points than I think they scored at all last year against FBS opponents. So. Yeah, that was
6
a hell of a game.
6 touchdown passes for Evan Simon.
Yeah, he looked good yesterday. I did see a little bit of that. Memphis 45-10 over UT Chattanooga. Rice gets a win over Louisiana 14-12. What a game that was. North Texas 51-0 over Lamar. And Tulsa took care of Abilene Christian. I thought that'd be a closer game, but it was 35-7. Trey Lamb gets a good has a good one in his debut. Moving on to the Big 12 Thursday, UCF gets a win over Jacksonville State, 17-10. Oklahoma State 27-7 over UT Martin. Houston 27-0 over Stephen F. Austin. Friday night we had Kansas 46-7 over Wagner, and that's it. Teams that won on Friday. Saturday, Arizona State 38-19 win over Northern Arizona. That was a late night game, but the Sun Devils looked good early. K-State gets a 3-point win over North Dakota. Probably a little bit more of an embarrassing result of the weekend, but they take care of business. They get it done. They didn't take care of business. They did just enough to squeak by, and they get a C- on the project and move on. Iowa State 55-7 over South Dakota. Texas Tech 67-7 over Arkansas Pine Bluff. Man, I should have taken that.
Did you see the storms that rolled in through there at
Yes,
that game? Holy crap!
a heck of a view for those who like storms like I do.
Yeah.
We had West Virginia beat Robert Morris 45-3. Was that homecoming for West Virginia? No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. For those that don't know, a couple years ago, App State played Robert Morris for homecoming a couple years ago, and I have been making that joke every time I've seen Robert Morris play.
This is gonna be the running gag anytime Robert Morris is mentioned, just for future reference.
So West Virginia wins homecoming, 45-3.
He was there. Yeah, he was there.
Unfortunately.
So you were there for the App State homecoming, and one of our friends of the show was there for West Virginia's homecoming yesterday.
BYU 69-0, nice over Portland State. Arizona 40-6 over Hawaii, a pretty dominant performance. We did see Micah Alejado yesterday. Arizona might have turned it up defensively. They might have figured something out. Who knows? Utah UCLA 43-10 for the Utes. And again, as I already mentioned, TCU UNC tomorrow for your last Big 12 game. Big 10 games. We had Rutgers Thursday night, 34-31 win, squeak by against Ohio. Parker Navarro looked really good for the Bobcats, but Rutgers ultimately walks away with the win. Minnesota led by Darius Taylor. Drake Lindsey looked good in his first start of the season. 23-10 win over Buffalo. Nebraska 20-17 victory in Arrowhead Stadium against Cincinnati. They played well. I'm not overly impressed, but it was a good sign, I thought, for both sides. Miami, Ohio, Wisconsin. Wisconsin able to get the win 17-0. Did not cover, but they did score 17 points at least. Friday games. Illinois 52-3 over Western Illinois. Michigan State 23-6 over Western Michigan. Saturday games. We had Michigan beat New Mexico 34-17. Bryce Underwood's debut looked good. I'll speak on this a little bit. Man, I didn't even see 136 yards or 144 yards, sorry, and two halves of football, let alone one half a lot last year. But Bryce Underwood looked good. Over 200 yards passing, ran the ball really well. Justice Haynes, a welcome to Ann Arbor, 150-plus yards rushing yesterday, and a trifecta, 3 touchdowns. Michigan looked good. I'm not really concerned about this game against New Mexico. If you remember last year, Idaho hung around with Oregon. 24-14 was the score of that game. And the head coach of Idaho at that time, Jason Eck. Head coach of New Mexico yesterday, Jason Eck. He did a great job over the offseason, put that team in position, and they fly around. They play with a lot of effort. They are a fun Mountain West team. They might be dangerous as the year goes on.
Idaho nearly got themselves another one yesterday.
And we were hang on. I didn't know we were on Pac-12 or 2.
I was all I was mentioning was for a tease ahead.
Oh, yeah. Well, anyways, Ohio State 14, Texas 7 in the battle of top 3 teams. Penn State 46-11 win over Nevada. Oregon 59-13. Yeah, they were not having that again this year. They were taking care of their FCS opponent this time around. Indiana 27, Old Dominion 14. That's a closer game than I thought it would be, but kudos to Old Dominion. Ricky Raines got a pretty solid program building down there. Like they keep improving. They keep sticking around with these Power 4 teams, and eventually they are going to compete for a Sun Belt title. I don't know when. I don't know if it'll be this year, but they might be the next best thing when it comes to them against that of the Sun Belt, because Georgia Southern played terrible yesterday. Maryland FAU, Maryland 39-7 win. Not the way I expected
But
it to go. Caden Belkamp looked good for a minute, and then it just didn't. It kind of went downhill. What were you
Tyler, I didn't watch any of this game, so it didn't count, right?
Oh, well, thanks. I'm glad. Purdue and Ball State. Purdue 31-0. A good start to the Mariota era. They had their first touchdown within 40 seconds in that game. They were moving the ball. Ryan Brown looked solid. Iowa 34-7. They didn't cover. It was 39.5, and they did not cover. They didn't even score that number.
Yeah.
But they did get into the 30s
what?
against an FCS team this time. So
Yeah. And Kirk Ferentz now tied for the most winningest Big Ten coach.
yes, 205th win with the Hawkeyes. That's an incredible number.
It only took like 5 or 6 more years than Woody Hayes did with Ohio State. But
I don't know who that is. USC 73-13 win over Missouri State.
yikes.
And then Washington 38-21 over Colorado State. That's your Big Ten slate for this week. Conference USA, we had some Thursday night action. Deshaun Jackson made his head coaching debut for Delaware State. And unfortunately took a loss to Delaware, 35-17 in that one. Friday night, we saw FIU get a win, 42-9 over Bethune-Cookman. Liberty, 28-7 win over Maine. That game was a lot closer than it should have been. Austin Peay takes down Middle Tennessee State, 34-14. Austin Peay will now take over Middle Tennessee's spot in the Conference USA and play the rest of the season. Against the Conference USA.
First win over an FBS school for Austin Peay since '87.
Yeah.
They looked the better team for the entirety of that game.
Yeah, dominated it. North Alabama and Western Kentucky. 55-6 victory there. Louisiana Tech 24-0 over Southeast Louisiana. Never mind, not yet. New Mexico State 19-3 for Bryant. Real barn burner there. Independence, we saw UConn 59-13 over Central Connecticut.
Okay.
The MAC, Bowling Green 26-7 win over Lafayette. That was it on Thursday night.
Made an appearance.
Yep. Friday night, Central Michigan 16-14 win over San Jose State. And then Kent State finally wins again, as we mentioned at the very front of the show. Kent State. Round of applause for you. Round of applause for you. They will not go 0-12 this year. They go 21-17 victory over Merrimack. Northern Illinois 19-17 over Holy Cross. Was almost embarrassing, and that is all we got because that's the only teams that won this weekend out of the MAC. Mountain West. Thursday night we had Wyoming 10-0 over Akron. San Diego State 42-0 over Stony Brook. UNLV with a 38-21 win over Sam Houston. Air Force 49-13 over Bucknell. Utah State 28-16 over UTEP. Fresno State 42-14 over Georgia Southern. And then the other teams there lost to Power 4 opponents, it looks like. Pac-12, we saw Washington State with a 13-10 victory over Idaho. We already talked Cal, Oregon State. SEC, game today, South Carolina, Virginia Tech. That'll be at 3 p.m. On Thursday night, we saw Missouri with a 61-6 victory over Central Arkansas. Bo Prabula looked pretty solid in his debut for the Tigers. Friday, we saw Auburn 38-24 victory over Baylor. Jackson Arnold looked very good in his debut for his respective Tigers. Yesterday, we saw LSU last night 17-10 victory over Clemson. Georgia 45-7 over Marshall. Florida 55-0 over LIU. Oklahoma 35-3 win over Illinois State. Texas A&M 42-24 over UTSA. Ole Miss 63-7. Wait, what were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say Mateer threw for nearly 400 yards against Illinois State.
Yeah.
I think he may have had the most by any quarterback that I've seen so far.
How many yards did he throw?
392. Haven't seen anybody that's topped that so far.
Like throughout all of college football or in the Power 4?
Well, either or. Not
Maverick MacGyver threw for 400 last week in the game against Sam Houston.
I meant this week is really what I meant, but it's all good.
Well, okay, well. Let's see here. Dude, fucking this app sucks. Sorry, ESPN, but your app sucks. It closes out every time I click on something, and this fucking thing. I'm trying to read something. and you shit on it. Let's see here. What do we get? What do we get out of? Well, it certainly wasn't them. They pretty much pulled the plug on Lagway pretty early, huh?
Yeah.
As they should have. All right. Anyways, moving on.
Absolutely.
Ole Miss 63-7 win over Georgia State. Tennessee 45-26 win over Syracuse. Mississippi State wins 34-17. What was a chippy game in Hattiesburg against Southern Miss. I mean, that was a game where like they were at each other all game long.
Oh,
It
yeah.
was
Did you
insane.
see that crazy circle or juggling catch?
No, I must
Southern
have
Miss?
missed it, but interesting game.
Anyway.
Kentucky 24-16 win over Toledo. Arkansas 52-7 over Alabama A&M, and Vandy looked solid 45-3 over Charleston Southern. I know it's just Charleston Southern, but it was something. Sunbelt UL Monroe 29-0. That means they are certainly winning. No, just kidding. They will probably not be winning next week, but either way. App State 34-11 in the Dukes Mayo Classic. That game was in Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte. We had James Madison 45-10 over Weber State. Arkansas State 42-24 over Southeast Missouri. South Alabama 38-21 over Morgan State. Troy 38-20 over Nichols. Texas State 52-27 over Eastern Michigan, and that rounds out your FBS slate. Taking a quick look here at the FCS because there were some interesting matchups that we saw this weekend that ended up happening. First off, West Georgia dominates Samford 34-3.
Wow.
Quite a bit surprised by that result. I'm going to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But I don't want to spend a whole lot of time.
over FCS, I think.
That's what I would believe too, or at least what I've been made to believe. Moving on here, we saw some other interesting ones as well. Lehigh takes down Richmond 21-14. That was a bit of a surprise to watch the Spiders go down.
Northwestern State ended their 20-game losing streak. They beat Alcorn State 20-10.
Well, Marion Furman would have been a fun game, 23-21. Furman takes that one down. There's one I'm looking for specifically, though, so bear with me while I try to find it. Howard and Florida A&M, a little more acceptable, 10-9. Howard takes it down. That's Gus Johnson's alma mater, if I'm not mistaken.
How about that?
Tennessee State opens up the post-Eddie George era with a 24-21 win over NC A&T. That's a good win for them.
Yeah.
ETSU dominates, but there's one game. Oh, here it is. Presbyterian, 15-10 win over Mercer. Number 11 Mercer. Not anymore.
Wow, wait. Tyler, the same Mercer that left the game or didn't want to finish the game against UC Davis last week because of the weather delay or whatnot?
Well, I'm not going to speak on something like that because I don't know, but
right.
Certainly was interesting why that game was just canceled, not called or finished.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter because they lost. They lost to Presbyterian, and Presbyterian, if I'm not mistaken, is a non-scholarship college. Like they don't do that. So,
yeah.
Interesting. An interesting win.
Very interesting.
For what a team that calls themselves the Blue Hose. Careful how you spell that.
Better watch where you step too.
Yeah.
There's some landmines out there.
Yeah, that's kind of it. We're not a front running show, so we talk about everybody, and that is your run through of everybody. So before we hit the 2 hour mark, just want to say thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you everybody. We had 34 views, 35 actually, as we sit and end this thing, which is crazy. That's I think a record for the lives here.
Heck yeah.
So appreciate you guys tuning in. Thank you guys so much. Enjoy the day today. Catch us tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll be recapping today's games. South Carolina, Virginia Tech. And, well, I'll be recapping them. South Carolina, Virginia Tech, Notre Dame, Miami. I'll also preview TCU, North Carolina tomorrow night as well. And kind of set up the week ahead. Again, a little more overreaction type of stuff as we head into week 2 of the college football season, which is certainly bound to not be quite as exciting, right? I mean, based on the matchups we have. I mean, I know we have a big one Saturday night, Norman,
Hmm.
but beyond that, I don't know that
It'd be
there's
pretty.
really a whole
It's a
lot of.
pretty. I was saying there's a pretty good sneaky slate, especially at noon. I was looking at, so
Yeah,
definitely worth revisiting and
we will be
taking
taking.
a look at. Yeah.
We will be certainly taking a look. I will be around next week with certainty. One thing I can tell you right now: next Saturday, the live might be a little bit earlier Saturday, and it might just be me next Saturday. I will be out of town attending to a service for my dad, so I will not be here. But once we are, I will be. I have every intention of doing a show Sunday morning and kind of talking about everything and seeing what we can make of what week 2 brought
All
to the
right.
table for the college football season. So appreciate everybody. Thank you all for tuning in. Again, if you're new around here, leave a like, subscribe, comment down below. Helps us hit 200. That's our goal. We're trying to hit 200 subscribers. We're on the path to it. We're 14 away. Last time I checked, we were 186.
Still are.
Growing slowly but surely, but we are definitely trying to get there. So again, like, subscribe. You can follow me on social medias down below. Specifically, TikTok and X are the ones that we've been using the most. But we're gonna find some use for the Instagram as well, and kind of start utilizing a little more here. Trying to again extend promotion, extend eyes on things. That's the best way to do it around here. That's what I've been told. So yeah, we'll keep doing that. Appreciate you guys so much. Again, we'll be back tomorrow, and I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your Sunday, rest of your weekend. Stay safe if you're going to a game today, and yeah, we'll see you guys again tomorrow with another episode of Armchair Analysis.